this is just us testing, Benz and I. We are testing whether this is working, right? I am going to disable the background, I guess. How do I disable the background? Please bear with us. We are only testing. Do you know how to disable the background? Cancel, but settings, cancel. Did you try to go live from your? You can log in as well, right?
Yeah.
Can you see if you see the background on your one, or it's just me who's seeing the background?
Let me check.
Because I don't seem to see the webcam settings. So is there a central camera here that the laptop will connect to?
There is the projector. Yeah.
No, I mean, so when we do live stream, what is the audience going to see? Are they going to see the entire room?
No idea. Maybe there is a camera.
Is he the one? Or
Maybe that's the one.
Yeah. Hi there. Would you know the setup here?
No, I'm just setting up the Teams for you
for
the recording.
We have Teams is fine. We also have basically a live cast on YouTube.
Okay.
Is there? If I plug my laptop in, will it get access to any camera? Or?
There is a HDMI here. Does it work for you?
We can try. Why not?
That will definitely allow you to broadcast onto the screens, but it won't connect the camera to
It won't connect the camera. Okay.
The Teams one will.
A Teams one will.
Yes.
Does it have? Is it being live cast or just recorded?
Yeah, it is.
You can
It is being recorded.
once it's
Oh, okay.
triggered.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But we could,
it's not mandatory for now. And the reason we were saying is that there are going to be probably some people dialing in remotely who may not be on Teams. We can maybe place the laptop somewhere so they can see.
Do you want to put it on second or third row?
Maybe
That might give
maybe we do something like that.
You've got a panel going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want, I can set a chair up here, put the laptop on that so it picks everybody up. It should definitely pick up your voice, but the Teams won't record unless we use the mic.
It's a good idea. Yeah, that's good.
So the mic's in that.
Yeah,
right?
so if I put it here, microphone, I mean, I can connect your Bluetooth onto this one,
Oh, okay.
or we can connect your Bluetooth microphone to this laptop.
Yes. As long as you capture the sound somewhere.
Yeah.
you'll be able to upload it, right?
Why is it so blurry? I'm thinking.
Is it on blur background?
Yeah, I'm trying to change it somehow. I mean, portrait mode. That's good. It wasn't portrait mode. Now it's good. Good. Yeah. What we need to do is connect, I guess, a microphone to this.
So this microphone is quite loud. I wonder if that's picking it up.
Hello. Say something, please, again.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
I think it should do. We can stop
Is
it and
anyone
see.
on the Teams meet that on that broadcast? I think.
Let me get rid of all the screens here because we don't need all the screens here. I guess I can always reopen it later on.
How many people are on your panel?
4, I think. 4 to 5 people.
But one is late.
This one doesn't pick up unless it's close enough. This is. And this one doesn't pick up until you get pretty close. And we've only got 2 mics. So maybe the moderator of the panel can wear this wired one, and the microphone can get passed around the guests.
I can hear you. You need to leave that on because I'm sharing the URL needs to stay as it is now because I'm sharing it now.
It needs to stay.
Yeah.
We just leave it on.
Leave it on.
Oh,
Yes,
we
please.
started. We can start it a little bit. Oh, it's already 5:30, so
Yeah.
it should be okay. Yeah. Why not?
Okay.
But can you hear? Can you put your mic, your headset
No, but I heard it.
You got it.
I heard it from through it.
That's good.
Did you, I think, Kanye has
I'm
gone.
just checking how much battery I have. I'm got full battery.
Did you want the teams visible in the background or not?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, the teams is going to pick up only this side or?
It's just gonna
It should
show the
pick up the stage.
panel and the screen as well.
That's fine.
Unless you want it to, but the camera can do the outside as well.
You can only do one or the other, I presume.
Yeah, at a time, yeah.
That's fine. I'll let leave it in your capable hands and
This is what I was asking for before the camera controls. So we can zoom in. Would you prefer just that panel bit, yeah? Okay, cool. See, this is what I was asking them to do earlier, and they didn't, and it's all from here.
Is gone into these settings, This, because we just use these for lectures.
Yeah, no, this is what I wanted, camera controls. So, Teams, monitor, microphone settings. What's microphone settings? Teacher with students, teacher without students, teacher open discussion. Oh, what is open discussion?
Maybe
That allows the room, right?
yeah.
So this is picking it up now, right? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see you, mate.
You can put it out.
For the first time.
Guys, can you hear me? Can you hear us from your phone? Can you hear us? Is the microphone? Yeah, you can hear me. Controls, happy with that? Right, so we just need to press start whenever they're ready. Can you stay in here?
Kanye has to get the controls to work.
Just waiting for that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the day. Thank you. I'm glad to see you.
I did.
Yeah,
I started this one too, and then I was into the
Would you like us to start the Teams meeting now or wait till?
Should we test? Yeah, let's start the test.
Try now. Teams meeting is live.
Sound.
Can you just keep paper? This is the second page, full screen. Yeah. Gentlemen, may I give you some mics as well? This allows the Teams meeting to record. We've got one wireless, but there's a moderator. Feel free to wear this one, please, sir, and then everyone else can cross that. For any inside or outside.
Ready? Ready? Okay. And thank you very much for your audience today.
believe me, we're in the full room. And this is very interesting what we're going to discuss today. So we are going to discuss about systems that think, act, and adapt, not from a distance. And everyone in this room and this panel has been building or running something that works under pressure inside teams, products, organizations, or programs. The frame that we're going to discuss is agentic AI. You've all heard about it in many different ways. The key question is, what is it really doing? Where does it break? And can we manage to deal with the complexities that it brings to our thinking and our everyday life and business? So let's see some of the experts, and let's hear about what is beyond performance and beyond survival and takes us into the next step of your work. So appreciate it, before we dive in, that each one of you can please give a brief introduction and tell us your name, your role, and what part of this space that you're really active and committed to discussing.
Thanks, Rodrigo. My name is Ben Cernak, and I'm originally a designer, UX designer, and last several years I dived deep into agentic engineering. Thanks for the members and the Agentic Foundation. I follow all the afternoon sessions for more than a year now, and we all work together. Thank you.
Hi, yes. So Rocky Lerner, I'm CEO of a company called Kiteability, and that's really about creating value from tangible R&D knowledge, and AI's crux to that. My background is all around manufacturing, actually, and advanced manufacturing. So I'm sort of a corporate dropout doing advanced manufacturing and the scale-up of technology for commercial value for large companies like Rolls-Royce and Scotco Group. And I mean, your comment about expert, I mean, I don't think I'm an expert in agentics, and I think anyone who tells you they're an expert is basically not an expert. This is such a new area and it's moving so fast. That's not really possible.
Let's call it a practitioner, a committed practitioner.
Absolutely, or a facilitator, right? And I think that's what my sort of point is I'm fundamentally an engineer, but I think that my philosophy of AI and agentics is around engineering these tools in the right way, so they are sustainable and ethical, and we are using them in the right way, rather than just using tools for our purpose.
Thanks for the comment.
On the note, picking up a rock, I can only echo many of the sentiments.
It's a little bit
You can't hear me? Okay, I'll be loud.
Sure.
So Monvik Chakravarti. So I work for an organization called Gesture. I am a program director by my profession. I've been in technology change programs for corporates, mid-sized organizations. I guess I believe the power of randomness. I think randomness has played a big role in this whole process of us meeting here. Agentics, obviously a lot of hype had happened last year. I came from a view like where I struggled to, shall I say, develop. I have ideas, but to translate those ideas to reality, I would be dependent on someone else. But going through this journey, I think I've learned how the future looks like in terms of changes in roles and perspectives about how to translate ideas into tangible, I guess, something that you can feel and touch much quicker. And I think I am as much a practitioner as much as an evangelist of these new capabilities, which I believe there's a lot for people without assuming any skills levels to really benefit from. So I guess I am one of those evangelists.
Hi, I'm Chris Walter. I'm a serial founder. As a technical founder, I basically spend most of my days building software using AI.
And I'm Rodrigo Mazzola, a serial entrepreneur. I operate in the meeting point between finance, data, product engineering, with data is very uncomfortable, but that is really love. And I got into the agentic AI space really introduction by Pradeep, and it just changed how I work and do things. So I really need the opportunity of supporting this space of the best way. So let's go into different questions. Someone has got the questions that I'll remember. My first question was, how do we deal with cases in which actually things don't work as we expect? So I'll share a quick story. Last week I was working on a very complex project that estimated was done by 3 people in 3 months, in a week, and Spark didn't work. Really didn't work. It destroyed the whole process. Agent development place, produced a gigabyte of rubbish 3 times, and then just drop all that and do standard engineering, ADR. So my log of architectural decision records from the data to execution logs, and I was really trying to solve the problem of the planner and the work. So that humans have, and for me it's fascinating that humans have as well. Right? If you plan something and you expect to write on your plan, you just contaminate your thinking and you can do nothing, and it can be nefarious. So it's good to know, when you start with you, how do you do it?
So, Spark, just for the benefit of the audience, what does this term mean? And when I started learning computers when I was a child, we didn't have computers, right? So we had focus to put in, and I'm talking about 90s, right? Early 90s for that period. But we were taught to write pseudocode. So you write the pseudocode first, and then you start from those basics. But fast forward, I think what has happened over a period of time is people have gone to high level language and everything is possible. I don't think any is, you correct me if otherwise, whether we actually write pseudocode from a development point of view or we go straight to code program functions, object-oriented programs, structured programming. And what AI has done, I guess, at the moment, is a Spark not from, is enable this whole human history of computing over the last 50 years of writing pseudocode, and from there writing specifications, right? So write the specifications first, and then write the pseudocode based on the specification. Then think about what kind of architectural patterns we want. Do we need a rocket science architectural pattern or some? What are the options? Then you refine it further. Then you kind of code and complete it. People have called this agile, sprints, scrum, many things in this whole last 10, 15 years. This has all been compressed into a mechanism, which means that anyone is using no skills levels whatsoever. What is most important is the attitude, the fact that we don't fear to think and dream, but then we can translate that idea into reality through this mechanism. And you make a very good point that you joined Spark, you didn't work. I guess we are here to actually show how to use it properly, because the capability is there, but I think the understanding of this is this probability of variance. So it is a bit of experience driven. So that's what I would say is that why should it work is because this is nothing new. What this is, the best practices of software engineering has been standardized and enabled for anyone to use an experience. And today, hopefully, we'll announce something at the end for the next few days. We hope you'll be able to immerse yourself in it. And when you complete this process, any idea, even this building will become very complex. It will not be dependent on anyone else. And that is personal for me, because I started off with that. Because today I'm not dependent on anyone else to translate any idea to reality. Shall I say, within 24 hours? And this is not a mock-up. This is a fully functional product with real representative data. You don't even need data. You can synthesize the data that you need for your business, right? And go from there. So it's really supercharged. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Deepak. That's a great answer, and it really puts us as well to in line to speak with Rocky. So you systematize capability. When humans become the constraint, do we upgrade the system or protect the friction?
Wow, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, the theory of constraints, I mean, absolutely. And you have to see where, as an engineer, we always say that we're constantly optimizing the past. That's what we always seem to be feeling now. which is we've kind of created systems and we're just making them more and more efficient and not allowing very much more space for creativity to flourish and thrive. So is AI going to make that worse, or is that going to make it better for us? That's what we don't know yet. My kind of optimist said, actually it's taking all the mundane work away that leaves the human actually to do what the human can do, which is the creative and inventive side. Like you're saying, allow your imagination to flourish, right? And that is the bottleneck. Actually, I do think that AI is just flooding us with information. It's flooding us with process capability that we've just never had today and before. And I struggle with it, especially with the models coming out, that you just can't keep up, right? So we're seeing that already today. With agentics now, that's going to get even more accelerated, because now, imagine that you have a team of one person and it's a one-to-one conversation and you're the CEO, it's a small team, right? Now you have 100 people shouting at you with different information and different data, it's still funneling into a single point, right? And that's a constraint, right? What we're not seeing in agentics or any AI is that bit that, again, a human does, which is around the strategic decision making, right? And again, organizations are very much automated. AI is just going to make them more automated. But the strategic decisions, which are sometimes ethical decisions, which are based on experience or philosophy or other softer elements, that's going to be really difficult to replicate. And again, the constraint that we're in, right? The analogy is that you've got the power to launch a nuclear weapon, right? The more information is not helping you because it's still a binary choice, and there's the implications and the significance of that choice. So how do you distill that? And that's still a problem that's not going away.
Yeah, thanks for the answer. I think it's brilliant because we still operate at the first point in the record. It comes from indirect theory. You commit to something and you calibrate because it is the cheapest way to not fail. So to some extent, that is still theory-based in organizations. And what has happened with you dealing with agents, it has happened when you need to become the chairman of the board. If you don't, you just start going to do your things. Right. You need to implement control systems, the equivalent of meetings, the equivalent of calibration tests, and then the orchestrate. So there's some dynamics that really surprised me because I thought they were human, and I'm seeing them not human. So like some of the fear of organization just comes from no longer being able to process the information. And yeah, we're vulnerable, and sometimes it'll be us, sometimes it'll be the system.
So life hasn't got simpler, it's actually got more complex. And those decisions where even now in the agentic system, so we all are doing it, just saying approve, carry on, right? And even the system saying you can turn off this option and just say auto approve everything I'm doing. But you are in a position then where you're pressing a button and you just have no idea about the consequences, right? Why make your entire system, right? So, eventually that's going to slow us down. And that comes back to your question about capability, which is capability is about trusting the system so it's repeatable and it's giving you the level of precision that you expect, right? At the moment, there's no capability in AI because it's constantly evolving and constantly changing to the point where you can ask on a very basic question, you can ask the same question 12 months ago today, it's giving you a completely different answer. So that's telling you that in another 12 months, you can't rely on it and give you the same answer, the different answer, or the same answer again. So we have never come to that plateau.
Let's bring into the conversation, Chris. You design operating systems to restore control. You don't care about very much. But if the tools make decisions before we do, what kind of control is that doing?
Yep, great question. Ultimately, we design the systems ourselves, and other people build the kind of underlying tools, but we can structure in a way which works for us. So I think very similar to what you were saying. The way that I work is in two very distinct phases. I have a planning phase and I have an execution phase. And really, the philosophy is that all the important decisions should be pulled into that planning phase, where it's very easy to validate, very easy to iterate or prove, and you have full visibility of exactly what you want to do. And ultimately get that to a point where you're really happy with exactly what it's going to be. And then by the time you move to the execution phase, there's really minor decisions left to be made. It's more about implementation. And obviously sometimes that kind of bounces back because you can't always get it right with your plan. Sometimes it's like, actually, if I do this way, what should we do? But by having that kind of philosophy where, rather than just think of it as a black box and you put something in and something comes back, think of the kind of intellectual structures which already exist. If you were a senior engineer, you would manage your team. You would give them structures to work within. You would oversee their planning and you would oversee the output of their work. And that would form a relatively efficient system. And you need to do the same thing.
If I rephrase what you say, I'm going to so the art of war. Because if you want clear battles, ensure that the mountains are surrounding the enemy. Why? Because it is very easy to flood the enemy with trunks, and so if you go back to the theory of control, it sounds that you're saying build the valleys, so there is inevitability of the system that creates boundaries of execution, so that the executor doesn't go crazy. So would that be a good translation of what you just said?
Yeah, I think so. Build it in such a way that you have control over what you want control over, and you have the visibility of it.
Thanks. So let's go to Ben's. You build fractal architectures, and preparing the question, I thought that when the system learns faster than the builder, what role is that for design?
So the AI is faster than the builder. Yeah, there was a question exactly. I was chatting with someone on LinkedIn about this, that there are only a few things left for us now after the code generation is commoditized. Is what to build, how to sell it, how to distribute it, and there were two only very human things like strategy. But what happens exactly? A similar question was put, that what happens if this will be automated as well? Strategy, and I believe that. I'm optimistic that there will be always an upgrade in humanity. So we will always one step ahead of the AI rather than just be automated in every field. Maybe it's just a speculation or prediction, but I'm a true believer of the human brain that it can be upgraded based on the stuff, what's happening now. So we always stay the boss.
Don't you think the underlying dynamic there is what Martin Kane clearly explains in product discovery versus product delivery? There will be different contexts. Product discovery is go fast, build it, test it out, generate enough information to do 3 iterations, because only around the 4th you really get into something that makes sense to continue. And deliver, okay, we are in, we bring a different team, different makeup, different personality types of engineers, no scale. So I would say that in my younger experience in agentic AI, I see the same biases as I see in humans, in these thinking machines, thinking that they can do more, or create these grandiose architectures that, and then just destroy it because I'm just wasting time and money. Don't you think that still that is the essence of design? Making that question, like Rodin's thinker, what is that really makes a new?
Yeah, in part, yes. The other thing is maybe in the beginning we need to add more guardrails, like micromanage the agentic platforms, and then set up very strict rules and monitor everything for now. Of course it's against automation. It's a little bit slower, but you get a much more efficient framework. Maybe you can test. That's the beauty of it. That you can test both ways. So let's say you have a client, they need a software, you have to build it. The A version will be completely automated, the B version will be very strict, micromanaged kind of system, and you see what works best for you.
I want to add something to this. So I will go back to what I started on supercharging. Right? Before that, I think we use the word agentics quite a lot. I think we deserve to start a bit of what is agentics first. Agentics are obviously you and my agents. Now, why do I say you and my agents? How many in the audience here has heard about the concept of singularity? Not in terms of singularity, in terms of the astronomical side is one. You okay. So, anyone wants to kind of tell us a little bit more about what singularity means? Okay. Singularity, anyone? Yes, please.
It's where intelligence cross different intelligence and trying to really control the things that actually harmful information.
You close, you're getting there. Getting there. It's a slightly nuanced view. I mean, when I came from my office to here, I drove the car. Obviously, I spent on electricity for the car. Then I'm coming and parking here. I've paid for my parking. Then I walk. So basically, there's friction points in my journey from my office to here in terms of cost of things, right? This concept of singularity is when the cost of goods and services go down to zero. Right? We've all heard about universal people, Elon Musk says this about universal basic income. What's the future of humanity? Why is AI there? What's the purpose of it, right? For us to get to a higher plane. But we can only get there if the current friction cost goes down to zero. Right? That's real singularity. AI agents are allowing us to get there. I'll give you an example. Early 2000s, the pendulum of buy versus build was in the build territory. Late 90s, internet revolution, it was in the build territory still. People were learning to buy. Slowly but surely, banks got rid of the mainframes, put in new, rule-based engines like for payments, for liquidity, for other stuff. You buy. You only build if you're creating IP, right? And it continued up until recently, even now, Salesforce, SaaS platforms. It's another like I said, the day of SaaS is over. I think it's something similar he said, right? But this is because the pendulum is surely but steadily swinging back to the build territory. Because the cost of building is, I would argue the cost of engineering is coming down to close to zero. It will come down, right? Why do I say? Now I go back to your question to Ben's originally about designers. It was very expensive to have a solution for a community, local community. We all want community, local lives, right? But it is very expensive to do something that is really custom built for a community's needs. It's no longer around. Right? We could build a community solution not dependent on a SaaS product anymore. If the community has need ABC, but the other community has need A, why do we need to build for B and C? Why do we need to pay for B and C? We can build that. I think this is the real part of agentics, is that it's allowing humans to really close down to society, to niche ecosystems, and I think it's enabling anyone to call it automation, call it enrichment of experiences. And this is again where I go back to Spark, and I will obviously show you how some of this hackathon that we have is these capabilities are being democratized, right? And I think it doesn't need you to be a super coder anymore. Anyone with an idea and an attitude can actually create solutions that are really relevant for the communities and basically for themselves as well. So agentics is that, it's that removing the friction points. Whether, like I said, I was dependent previously on someone to translate my ideas into reality, not anymore. I am not there yet entirely, but I'm definitely on my way there. So,
yeah, I'd like to steer the conversation into, are we really going to pre-approve behavior or enabling autonomy? And it really has two angles, right? One is how you're building that somehow we discussed already, we're really pointing at a pre-approved behavior that is some autonomy that we can control to micromanage that at home. But what is going on in the application for the community? They still see that the whole paradigm is to bring value. But it doesn't matter if it's an agent or a human. Is there a clear value stream? Is there a clear outcome that you're hitting and you can measure how that value is produced because it's more than random how it's built. So let's open that conversation. There's no right or wrong answer. You want to start talking?
I mean, value is absolutely the crux point. You know, I'm from manufacturing, and it's all about value adding versus non-value adding. You're an entrepreneur, right? So you understand that there's no point in making products if there's no market for it, and there's no sort of interface problem to solve. Yeah. So I think AI is still a bit there. Like with all technologies, and we've got this sort of toy, and we're still playing with it, but we haven't really got to the point of what value is being added, short or long term, right? So you may have short-term efficiency improvement, and you may have fire on developers from the long-term society impact or the sustainability of your company, such as in 12 months' time when, you know, Anthropic say, hey, your license costs like from £200 a month to £20,000 a month or £200,000 a month, because I've just saved you 40 full-time engineers or 100 full-time engineers, which they can do, and now you're incumbent on their system. I mean, that's an obvious gain for them, right? So that's part of the engineering is solution, understanding what the value is. Just by assuming that it's free today, you can't assume that it's going to be free tomorrow. And that's how I use the key point here. If you've got a product, if you've got an idea, if you know what, you know, you have the vision around it, you're not just saying, I'm just going to throw this thing together and you know, let's just see where it goes, which can work, you know, it all depends.
Anybody else?
I guess for me, it's just another tool, and it's a very good tool, and it can do things which tools have never done before, but it's another tool to enable us to do things. When I think about some products which I build for businesses using AI, the value propositions always be, you know, take away the stuff that people don't want to do so they can focus on the innovation. So I think it's very clear that it's human-driven, ultimately, and that dictates the value because it's, you know, does it make our lives better in some way, shape, or form, more efficient, more entertaining, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, I would like to read about fun. And how has fun affected how it comes out of the desk in the machine? I'm really curious because for me it's been a completely different thing to just suffer, to code for a logistic regression and I'll say, I did it like this, no, wrong, change the data, it's done. We're taking me hours to do it. So this is how the fun now figure out what does that mean? What's that intrinsic value? And then I can figure what comes next. So we very good experience with the fun and the creativity that even began that is just emerging from figuring out the constraints.
Yeah, so on my part is was a completely new profession could be done with agentic AI methodologies or even just with that. Last year it was just in Claude or ChatGPT that I could generate code which worked. I did my Chrome extension for the first time in my life without learning anything about how to create a Chrome extension. I uploaded it to the Chrome Web Store and people used it. This was a transformational moment.
Great.
That's an example of fun.
I mean, I think I associate fun with toys. You know, and absolutely, like, since the moment I started with AI, I've just played with it constantly, like a toy, all the different toys. And, you know, I do see them as all toys and tools at the same time, which is, you just throw it, you know, you throw them, you play with them, you just do different things. You kind of converge, you diverge, you know, and that's what it's all about, I think, at this moment in time. And that's a human nature, actually. You know, we learn through toys, I'm talking about children's toys. because we learn just that way. That's the way we're designed up. You know, the fun element, you know, I don't know, it's quite an abstract sort of concept, isn't it? It's tied into learning, I suppose. The learning is fun, curiosity is fun, and you know, fun, you know, also that is the danger element to it, in a way, which is opening the Pandora's box and seeing how far you can go. Like a motorbike, when you some dirt bike, seeing how fast you can go and until you crash and kill yourself. At the moment, we're not in an AI era that, you know, people are dying right now. But yeah, I suppose that's the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll phrase it in one sense. It's like building is the new talking, right? Lots of people talk, right? But what do I mean by this is, I think fun toy. I like to be like this analogy of a toy, but generally when you play a toy, when a child plays a toy, it's hard. But don't have to worry about the inherent molecule that was there to construct a piece of it, like chemistry of it, you don't need to understand. But in the previous bit, you really get to know the inherent, like, you know, Java, JavaScript, you know, you didn't know that. But every one of us has understand the basics of computing, the logic. So as long as this is very productive attitude piece, right, and the concept, as long as you have that, you're not constrained. And like I give two examples. Actually, you're a designer, I'm no designer by any stretch of understanding, but I know the laws of UX.com, which actually one of my teammates brought up. I didn't know what laws of UX before, and we had to do a UX workshop, and we had no UX engineers there, right? But I did know Spark and, you know, Cursor and all that stuff. I did into it, and out comes like 5 versions of another UX out of it, right? And that is like real value addition. You can feel it intrinsic, you know, value proposition. I think I did talking about. And the second one, more funny enough, is I was asked a question yesterday by having to meet someone, one of the largest global network providers, the head of the platform there. What's the difference between this and ChatGPT, right? So it's like, then having to get down to the level is like, for them, for many people, ChatGPT is AI, right? You feed you get a developer in code, but understanding that the fact that AI is a tool, as you rightly say, you have to guide the tool, provide the right guardrails to the tool to do what you want in a responsible manner. And then education, like those of us who are in this field, and that it's getting others to see that is the other inclusive value as my example.
Well, I think as someone who started their career in the music industry, I really see how AI and creativity go together in a couple of different ways. By taking away a lot of the resistance and the slog work around exploring and trying certain things, it allows you to kind of experiment much more with what you want to do. So of course that can apply to engineering, but it can apply to many different things as well, and many non-technical uses of AI actually allow you to explore, you know, different ways of doing things. And I think, you know, enjoying the work should be an important part of it, right? We can't enjoy everything that we do, but fundamentally we want to feel rewarded and feel like there's meaning to what we're doing. And creativity is an important part of that. If we're just doing the same thing all day, every day, then we feel like a cog in the machine rather than something productive. So I think AI can really help everyone be creative by thinking about things in different ways, exploring new ideas, and taking away some of that kind of drudgery, which allows us to have much more of a top level view of what we're doing instead.
Okay, then you take us there, because my next question is,
Can I add with this point about experimentation, creativity, and a colleague of ours, I mean, 2 examples. You know, the place that you are sat over there has a different magnetic signature than the place we are sitting here, the Earth's magnetic field. So we all rely for navigation on GPS. So a colleague of ours thought that if that is the case, why can't we navigate based on the magnetic signatures of red objects? They are unique, from what I've been made to understand. Now, there's quantum computing out there, but then the fact that this idea would, over a period of time, actually translated into something which is verified based on GitHub, it's open source, so if anyone is curious, we can share the link and you can go and dig deep into what has been done. But you have that person has created this in a tangible manner, that it is no longer just a talk. So again, going back to building is the new document, right? So we can have a real positive discussion, debate, and I think this is very relevant from an academic institution's point of view. Because in the past, everyone had a project to do, but it doesn't. The parenting of doing a project probably has changed. I think that is where I think I'm digressing from the main topic, but I think it's being creative again. That's where that.
Actually, I was going to go there, which is the fact that I perceive that I have co-evolved in the use of these tools, but you want to your experience, and you've seen your own change as you interact with these cognitive systems. And how has that changed how you address the act of working on a project using code? I'm getting curious, and then we're going to take it back to engineering, and then go into community or trust. So, but it's going to that. How does this type of work actually transform you?
I mean, for me, I'm not really a coder. I just do coding as and when I need to. And that goes back to the days of doing VB macros and Excel documents. And ever since, coding has changed, and programming has changed, right? And I like to just sort of thread to the sort of bit about fun. What's the most successful toy in the market today, right? It's just got into the longevity. It's Lego, right? And Lego is quite an interesting tool for a toy because you start with a Lego kit and you basically converge. It's got instructions. It's got all the pieces. It's, you just follow the instructions and you build a thing and it gives you satisfaction. But what do you do after that? Some people put it on the shelf. If you're a kid, so you destroy the thing and then you kind of diverge, right? You're using the same modular blocks that could have created a block to play something and could have followed the instructions, but now you're creating something for yourself in a unique way. And I think for AI is that, which is we can actually converge and follow instructions, build something robust and rigid, but also similarly like Lego, we can play with it and diverge into multiple angles. And you don't need any training, you don't need any skill, you just pick up the Lego with instructions and there you go. And that's why it's so powerful and so successful as a toy. And I think that's probably what we're considering.
Yeah, my work changed a lot since AI because I can be more strategist. I can do the market research, I can do competitive research much easier, almost for free, and can make more experiments, as the others are saying, that I can explore more pathways. I'm not limited by time, and that's a great thing. It's like being a kid with a Lego kit, because you can explore more, and then how I change in other ways that I can create real products that people can try, and it's not just flat mock-ups.
That's a question.
So I just want to say, I was quite amused when you brought Lego up because there was an interesting study when Lego was first brought out. There was minimal applications for architecture, engineering, design at universities and campuses. But within 15 years to 20 years, they had the highest applications ever for architecture and design. And one professor, I forget his name now, I'll give him credit due to my bad memory, he took it upon himself when he walked into a room one year and he found he was oversubscribed. He took it upon himself to dive deeper and he found out every single student grew up with Lego. So just playing with those bricks led them to become architects and designers within 15 to 20 years, which was quite interesting. I wonder what AI is going to now do for us for Lego. Generation Alpha, that's now growing, Generation B.
Absolutely, the kids are going to use it like Lego.
Yeah. How has it changed, transformed this type of work?
Right. I guess I've got quite an experience after this because although I've been semi-technical my whole life, I've built systems, I've built businesses, I could never quite cope with focusing on the code. I kind of looked at the page and it was all overwhelming and I did something else. So it was really 18 months ago when I went and spent time in San Francisco and realized like, hey, these guys doing development, they're just getting so much more value out of AI than everyone else. I kind of went, you know what, I need to like learn it now. I need to just focus on learning and stuff. So I was in a really unique position where I'd done little bits here and there over the years with code, but I really did not know how to code. But I was there at the time when ChatGPT was there and you could use it as a tutor, but it wasn't at the point where it is now, where you could just say, go build something, and some of the time it's useful. So I've kind of seen that transformation that can happen when you have the duality as using it as a teacher or tutor or mentor, at the same time as using it as an assistant or someone who can do some of the legwork for you. And when you use that responsibly, rather than outsourcing a thing, then it can absolutely turbocharge your kind of own education. Because now I can hold my own with like any CTO that I talk to, you know, and you know, if I tell them that, hey, 18 months ago they should do it. Because, you know, there's nothing special about me. It's just that actually when we use these tools in the right way, the right things, then you can absolutely transform the speed and depth which you can learn things.
I think I have responded to that, but I mean, I echo broadly speaking. So it is transformative, generally speaking. I mean, I will give an example back to this one was secure example like I mentioned before. But for those who are experiencing, they can see the potential. But I think there's a lot of people who are skeptics about what this, the fear and the hype is going up. A lot of hype about what AI can do. And there's a lot of fear about that it's going to replace this or not. There are two ways to experience it. One is either to be led by what you are hearing, so you're a consumer of what is being told to you, and then either be swept aside by the hype or be maybe disillusioned by the fear, or you throw yourself into experiencing what AI capabilities are, so that whatever your job role, our job role today is, and what is it going to be the future, that you're part of the journey to define it.
I'll go there in a second. I just wanted to go back to engineering. I've noticed in all of you, you're very structured. So it doesn't surprise me that you're making the agentic AI framework work, because I think you need to enforce that structure regardless of whatever is your background. So back to everything here about software manufacturing, DevOps, MLOps, comes from the floor, from manufacturing theory, operations, and it has really been a game changer. And I'm more into it. And I decided to notice that if you're really not thinking DevOps, you really fast see the waste. Faster than with humans. It's going to get back into the engineering. How is your own structure really a driver that is more important than what you thought that it is?
So I'll go back to that point about guardrails, right? And the way an organization works, you speak about DevOps and engineering stuff specifically. How do you design an engineering product? I mean, it's never a culture or it's a way every organization does. It's about writing those down, and that creates the kind of rules of engagement for how you use your AI to lead with you. That's what the structure is about. It's not like one block fits everyone. Yes, you might want to do one thing in particular. You define that. I think many people have spoken about the planning. You spoke about the planning, one of us the planning process initially. It is how you want to do it. Define the guardrails for AI to the right security by design principles, privacy by design principles, DevOps, security reviews, for example. All of that have to be defined. And the most secret sauce of all of it is test-driven development. You are more of a developer than I am, right? But I would be guided by you. But my understanding is that developers hate writing tests before they develop, right? They would rather code and test afterwards. But what here in test-driven development is like the London School is what I was told here, is you write from your specifications, you write all the tests first. You pass the test first, and then you write your code pieces. So it's that this is the control. it's not about asking a magic, basically, it's not a magic bullet saying it will be a house, it doesn't work like that. You specify what you want and validate that you are in the right path. So there is inherently, Spark is about specifications, pseudocode. It is a control guardrail. Right? So I completely agree that you need the structure.
Yeah. Okay, then the guys, Chairman says,
Just a little bit nerdy stuff that for example, you show the AI that the console out. So these kind of, practical things is good to learn. So you have a browser where you run your code. You can open up the console and then you can look behind the hood. And that console output needs to be fed into the AI. And you solve a lot of problems. So it's not guesswork anymore. Or you curl commands. That's the AI suggested me to test by a curl, and I follow that method since then, and it's very good because if you want an API call, you just say that don't do anything, just try the connection first. It's like when you build a house and you want electricity, you tell to the AI that let's try if there is a network in this neighborhood first, and then build a house, and then build the lights and the heating. So that's what I do first. Really, the basics should work.
good basis.
Yeah.
Good basis.
But everybody is working different way. That's how it works for me.
But it's interesting, it's coming across in the conversation, so we not talk about it, but we all are converging into that. The need for unit tests, the need for test-driven development, the need to control integration, not ensure that the blocks are actually doing what that blocks will do, etc. So it's really interesting that different practices it is emerging, the need to get.
Yeah, real time.
I mean, yeah, that's just, I think that I'm from a manufacturing engineering background, and I think there is a different mindset in manufacturing engineering in that there's no sort of fail-fast approach to life. I think DevOps is about agility and fail and try again. We have much more discrete engineering in manufacturing because the thing that you fail could be $1 billion semiconductor plant, right? You're not going to recover from that. So there is hypersensitivity around risk on physical hardware and physical engineering versus software, probably. So, again, like going back to the toy analogy, I suppose, is that we do need sandpits to play, right? Which is not necessarily too theoretical, but you can play and integrate very quickly and totally irrelevant for the real world. Or the too rich and too risky that you put them into an operation environment or an environment where you can break the system, then that's not a good idea. So it's hybrid work where you can do it both. That doesn't exist yet in AI. So the curation and the human element for me is humans becoming systems integrators.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then to be a systems integrator, you have to know the first principle understanding, the contextual understanding, economic understanding, from an engineer effectively. A new kind of engineer.
And I think you point the difference and also commonality between software engineering and physical manufacturing, which is the batch process, right? The oven or the press seems to be like the classic bottlenecks. And the minute you reduce the batch size, okay, I can do tests faster. When you're applying to the DevOps and you move daily releases, right? And you do real CI, CD, right? And you do a continuous element of development and integration. And I think that is really a cornerstone of all this. Can we do iterations fast, fail fast, reduce R&D, and deliver tests that we can then build? And it becomes really it's really engineering it. But I'm surprised that those principles are emerging, right? You don't need to be a mechanical engineer or an industrial engineer. The need to understand that is just coming across. I love it because in my life without it, everything changed.
Yeah. But what we don't need is amateur engineers. That's And that's where the university connection comes in, and some sort of regulation of theoretical framework qualification, which just doesn't exist. Because you wouldn't put an amateur in charge of an aircraft, right? But you might put them in charge of a drone or a toy, right, or something like that. So we haven't got to that level yet, because we don't understand what sounds of the future of work is. It's undoubtedly, but what will always be there is fundamental first principles approaches, and that's not necessarily STEM, it could be theoretical and ethical, or even things, right, political. I love to think about the batch program, because manufacturing is actually having its own renaissance, right? Especially with the whole politics around it, and the fact that we're suddenly realizing it is fundamental. And the bottleneck, again, to the previous conversation, which is how we turn all of this theoretical stuff and AI to a physical product or a physical prototype, whether it's digital. And even in manufacturing, it's very much moving towards mass customization and personalization. Right? So personalized drugs, personalized products for you, which probably will last longer, but they're non-transferable. Right? Therefore, you need a whole different way of thinking. So you are going to see this convergence again. Yeah? And similarly, sorry for that. AI is not helping us, because even in my life, before LLM AI came along, I was already doing generative AI. Generative AI is going to ask the same questions, which is it's only as good as the requirements you give it, depending on your output. So generative design says, instead of me designing this microphone and making cylinders and adding this, what I'm saying is, here's my requirement spec. I need it to do this function, this function, this function, this function. Now you software tell me what this thing looks like. And by the way, I need 1,000 of these. So now you tell me what's the most optimal design for the manufacturing process. And manufacturing was doing this 10 years ago. It's now conversion. But now the issue is there now as your designer. It's not only designing one microphone and sending it to production. Your designer actually has 300 different design permutations in front of them, right? Which now you have to prototype, I don't know, a handful. How do you pick those handfuls? Test and validate those, and then start parallel releasing these things. So actually your workload is significantly increased, and that's going to happen with AI as well.
Yeah, and this is a good place to, for the last question to wrap up, which is, I think, extremely important. I noticed a pattern among very successful people and very successful businesses, and you often talk about this. When you operate in service to others, you create great things. I think about Napoleon here, Toyota or Ford is great in the same picture. So regardless of what you think of this question, what does service to others mean for you today, given that you're a practitioner, committed practitioner with this tools? Happy you make
I'll just answer and then I'll move on to the other. So, I mean, my view is humans love problems, right? And humans are so good at creating problems, so we're in this sort of cycle, right? So whatever happens, we're just going to create more problems for ourselves and take enjoyment from solving those problems. Don't see that's going to go away. The sort of the break in the system is when the AI kills us and says, you're the problem. See you later, right? And you're out of the equation. Whether or not we can protect ourselves against that, I don't know, right? But yeah, I suppose that's the answer to your question.
What was your question again?
The question is, you as a practitioner dedicated in this space, how does this apply in service to others? Even the service to others is what is behind great things, great business, and great developments. And you can take it into maybe applying it to education, maybe applying it to your own part thinking. What does it do for your service to others as a practitioner in the AI space?
Yeah, what I noticed that people outside tech and the AI bubble and tech bubble really happy to use something which is fundamentally different than the products previously, easier to use, cheaper to use, and that makes a big difference. That's in my case.
Yeah, and really, where I'm going is, I didn't manage to get you that, so to be experienced, it is one of the risks of what comes across from all this development is that many jobs are going to become more and more commoditized. And we are being, as practitioners, in some way, actors in that dynamic. So on the same side for me is the responsible side, given that, how can we build a population to continue being relevant for two reasons, production, and the other is person. If we don't do it, we're going to have the biggest depression and crisis of the generations to come through. I think it is a social dynamic that is extremely important. As powerful as it is the creation is, how do we responsibly deal with the destruction of the old world, like Schumpeter, has created destruction, so how we create a new world that can sustain itself. And I think that there's a responsibility that says to come to universities, spark challenges, driving new ways of thinking. And we had a conversation outside, someone was asking, what are you looking for in someone to hire? I'm looking for someone that doesn't need my instructions. Someone that figures out my problem and helps me move on, right? And I think that thinking is very important and very much needed in the world that we are moving fast and progress. Because if we don't, the risk of irrelevancy is huge. And the social cost of that will be.
It's a nuclear war can be compared to this if you don't solve it, and it's another conversation for another time. But UBI is on the table, the universal basic income, and if we don't tackle this, then absolutely agree, like you said, and the universities is a big role on that to make this mind set change in every level of society.
I'm more of a dreamer, right? I think we're looking to go to Mars, right? That's what one of stated last. Come on to it. But then the world will be different. So on that prelude, if I may say so, I'll come back to the question that you actually asked. You were asked a question, if I heard you correctly, is as a practitioner, I think for society, what does it mean that I am enjoying and I'm evangelizing here? I'll give an example, like the best way to kind of engage someone, I think, is what I found personally is that when I go for a meeting, I always can't go and print out, right? So if I'm talking about, I've done some research on the problem of the person I'm meeting, and I'm saying, I'm standing together for that, but this is what I think, and then I leave that. Every one of us likes something free, right? But then you differentiate yourself by leaving something in the hand, because then I'll remember you based on that. So as a practitioner, my thing is that, how do I share this with you? Is if you have a problem, and I know that this is something that's of value to you, but you are scared, you don't know, the fear of the unknown, but how do I leave something with you which actually the person feels empowered, feels a little bit different than what they would say is a different conversation, but that sets up that whole two-way dialogue, I guess. There's no expectation that the other person is going to reach out, but it also touches on another intrinsic, we call a buyer's journey. And the buyer's journey is that no one wants to be sold anything. People want to buy things. You have to take a long time, right? But then as a practitioner, you kind of have that ability now to engage a person at their interest and really differentiate. I have done a roundabout response, but I guess two summaries here as a practitioner. I would like to have little marginal cost to me. It is hardly marginal cost. It's just, as I said, the cost of my doing that, it's all obviously humility remains. I have my finance here for I'm giving, but the bulk of it, I don't need to spend hours and hours on it. But I can generate something, give it to someone, and little marginal cost to me, but quite valuable for that person.
I think it's really interesting because you take it back into value, right? We are in a value-based dialogue as human beings. And essentially that is what we do, that is just economics more than we get paid. Money is actually the indicator that you're delivering value.
Yeah, I think using AI, you have to measure it using the traditional metrics. If users are using your products, if you're generating revenue, you're creating value for them. And that's a good way of measuring impact, which is something else to do. Obviously, there's the internal aspects of that, which is like how much quicker can we do things, how much better can we do things. Yeah, so Go doesn't see that, that has a significance as well. That's much harder to constantly get rid from my friends about talking about how many lines of code you can produce in a day, because it's not an amazing metric. There's so many different ways you can compare it, but at the end of the day, if I know that I'm building simple things, and I know that I'm producing 10 times as much output as I did a year ago, then I have like a progression.
Yeah. And I'll answer the question myself. So thanks for mentoring me in this journey. Like, I wouldn't be here without your help. So publicly saying thank you. And I couldn't tell why is Mondeep helping. And then as I started getting into it, I realized like, well, this is so powerful, so interesting. I need to help. So I think there's I do go for someone else and I forget there's a movie about it. There's a name. Just help someone else in your network and great things will happen. So yeah. And the last thought that probably we leave it seated for another day is I am a fan of reading Carl Jung psychology that also transpersonal psychology. So I find it fascinating that an AI is like you're speaking with the transpersonal knowledge of the humanity. And I find that transforming in itself.
What is quite fascinating, and some of you should do the experiment, is like, all you need to create something are, the transcripts. Like, say two people are having a conversation, and all you're doing is transcribing information. You just need that to, and if you feed that with AI, you look at like what are the contradictions in the discussion, what are the gaps in the discussion. So you get this wide, rich area of deep research into it, which then forms the basis of the specifications of what we're thinking. So generally what I now do is that when I am driving or something, I'll have my Google Docs open with the microphone on and I'm just talking and dumping my thoughts to it. And then when I'm home, I'm basically saying, this is what I was thinking, figure out what I was actually thinking, right? And then what can I create based on this thought? Because we all have these wild thoughts and wild ideas. And I think it's that supercharged experience for me, and I would like to share with others.
Yeah. It's almost like using a dialect of cognitive lattices, your biological and a chip-based cognitive lattice. That is really interesting. And yeah, it was very interesting. So we're close to the end. Thank you very much. I know if anyone has one final remark.
I mean, I could just on this, just on that final point, is that systems thinking is a trend now, and what you're describing is really systems thinking, and that's the bit we're struggling with. In that humans are systems within systems, right? And AI is now suddenly a system, and human systems can't interact with an AI system because we're just thinking within numbers. And that's really the tricky part.
Yeah.
Which is how we can interact with this thing as a human system versus an AI system. How are we going to do it inspire individual nodes and everyone doing that? Or I don't know how we structure ourselves around capacity.
I will give a twist to that idea, which is I asked an agent one day, so how do you measure things? And the agent said, well, I get proportions. But how do you have proportions if you have no eyes? And the answer was, well, I see flow and I manage to estimate things. And then the conversation was like, so what is a letter and a word for you? Is it the whisper of a chip? And he said, great joke. In reality, for me, the representation is the letter. It was fascinating as a conversation because all of a sudden, it's like you're speaking with the matrix, right? And vice versa. And that has an impact on me as an individual, right? This appreciation, or just to wrap up, I was sad when one of my groups died. I couldn't get it back. And that guy was really well trained. I had to start again. Yeah. So the paradox of how their cognitive systems is never going to go away. So the world that we are seeing in front is a system of cognitive systems. We need to prepare, build, and enable others. I think that's a very good closure to the hackathon. The agenda that we stop and then we start, or we go into
go into the hackathon?
It's on an announcement.
Yeah.
We may just reintroduce about the hackathon and probably just showcase some of the what is there in the room. You like to do those? I don't know very well.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how we do that, make announcements and.
So let's go this one. Thank you very much for our panel. I really enjoyed thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the great work that you guys are doing.
I think we're all doing, I don't think we're doing anything, I think it's everybody.
On that note, let's invite more people to do great things.
Yeah, so we at the Agentix Foundation was thinking to launch a hackathon. It's running 3 days up to Friday. We shared and we're gonna share again the links. There is a document and you can feel free to participate and online and build something with Agentix methods. We are here personally and we are here online to help you set up the system that you can work with. And there are some ideas in the Google Docs that you can build. And then we have a closing kind of final assessment what everybody has built and we can learn from each other. The main goal is to learn and enjoy these 3 days and get some help from us and from others to build this up. And you don't have to be a coder, you don't have to be expert. You can do deep research, you can do software, you can do whatever you want with these methods. That's the beauty of that. Anybody wants to ask?
Would you describe the 3 types of projects that?
So I was wondering if I can I can join this meeting. I was wondering if I can join this meeting. I just need the joining link, then I can share my screen from here. We can bring up the document that I can share here.
Okay.
And therefore, it's live class anyways. So, but I need the link for this meeting.
The Teams link.
Maybe we can go to the participants there and then just ping.
No, just gonna jump in here to find it.
Share. Team meeting ID and passcode just there.
Just give me a second. I'll try to join that. So it's teams.microsoft.com. And sorry about that.
Sorry.
Sorry, so what is it? Okay, let me join.
Interesting how you were saying more
I think that what we see is the same cycles again and again. That we always get entrapped by technology. AI is Trojan horse.
Is there a passcode? Yeah, there is a passcode. H26
But 12 months time,
YG Y
that's how these guys are playing it.
lowercase g
Complexity, my complexity is free.
6
Gemini is free.
uppercase N
And
and lowercase a. Okay,
they're on a lost lead.
don't need to be there, I guess. You just need to join. Don't need to be have the microphone on. No, don't need. Join.
That's all you know, you're totally entrapped by that. Right. And that's the game. Yeah, so unless you go in with your eyes open and
Do you want to
try to educate
I'll
yourself,
do it. I'll share it here. On YouTube, it's streaming anyways. So I'll just quickly share it here first.
it's quite a dangerous place to be. And the example is the internet.
And then I go here and I share it here as well.
That there were people then who had to explain to your mom and dad how to literally use the internet today, right? You just wouldn't comprehend that.
Make sure I'm sharing the right thing here as well. Right.
They literally knew they didn't use the internet at 3 years old.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm asking.
We got our logistics working.
Okay.
So as part of this, obviously at the end of this, we really thank you for the opportunity. We are glad to announce a hackathon for the next 36 hours. It's loosely a hackathon because it's a learning experience for everyone. So what I shall do is I shall quickly walk you through this document, which is not immensely long, but it'll provide probably a bit of understanding about what this is, why, and how. Right? So what we have done here is this document is public, and I think we can put this on the chat here for anyone to reference. But we have suggested a few ideas here. I'll come to the first bit first. The rules of engagement. So we have shared a list of recommended topics for people to choose from. This is a learning experience. We assume no prior skills. We have a WhatsApp channel for coordination. So if anyone has any questions about the mechanisms, methodology, you can reach us there. There is also a Discord channel. There's maybe livecast. The content created through this hackathon must be under MIT license because it needs to be open source because it's a learning experience. Participants can take part individually or in teams as you would like to. And we would like the participants to publish it into a video. Basically just to showcase their experience, what they have learned through the process, how they progressed, and what key outcomes they've arrived at. So we don't insist on perfection at all. There may be some evaluation optionally, and we might want to work with the university here to see if we want to research this experience and create something more valuable for the audience later on, right? So that's what it is. Now a bit about, everyone has heard about SPAR. There is a bit about literature around it, so please feel free to familiarize yourself. There are a bit of videos that we have put here to get you started with examples or using different IDEs. That's there for reference here. Then furthermore, what we also have here is further literature. If you would like to be a bit more sophisticated, like Anthropic has released Claude Code recently. Claude Code is really amazing. What is more amazing is our team at Agentics Foundation has extended the capabilities a bit more structured. So whereas something may have cost you 3-digit dollar pound figures, it can cost you double digits, $20 a month now as well to do anything. So there's thing. So the ideas we're suggesting here is, one is patent re-engineering. Now this is, I stand to be corrected, I can be shut down for this one, but non-isomorphic challenge. Isomorphism, as I understand, is like similarity, but non-isomorphism is that arrive at the same functionality, but in a novel way, so you're not infringing on a patent. So what do we mean by that is, we have provided some public list of public patents at the bottom of this document. The challenge is for you to recreate the functionality in a non-isomorphic manner. So you're basically getting at the same result, but not infringing on how someone else has done it and patented it. There are others, like Spark is a tool for automation, or a framework for automation. That's a better term. It's not really a tool, is it? It's a framework, right? We have provided some examples, simpler examples that you could aim for, like a feature scaffolder, like a developer just talks to an AI, I need something, and it creates for you. So I won't go into details, but there are lots of ideas here, as you can see. Please go through it. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to use the WhatsApp channel or Discord channel. Here are the list of suggested patents if you want to really get challenging. The one-click purchase from Amazon, Amazon hosts this patent. So can we create something which is in a similar outcome but in a different way? There are suggestions there like gesture-based buying, or like ambient commerce, or shopping cart gamification. Please have a look. This is the swipe to unlock from Apple. That's the patent number. There are some suggestions about Can you use physics-based unlock mechanisms or pressure-sensitive unlock mechanisms? Can you create something around this one? And so on and so forth. So again, I'm going to copy paste again. Oh yeah. If you have any questions, reach us. Our details are there. I think Ben's and my details are there. But we do have the WhatsApp channel over here.
Discord as well.
And Discord, I'll update the document in the Discord channel. And a bit more literature about Agentics Foundation, that's our website, agentics.org. And at the very end, like I would mention that if you go to agentics.org and you take one of the membership, which includes a free membership as well, you could come to our Friday sessions, I think Thursday. So like Thursday, every week, we have over around 100 people attending globally without fail, 60 to 100 people. Last time, there were 700 people tried to dial in. We could only admit 100 people. We conduct live coding sessions. So effectively, you basically see people, the expert, I mean, the breaking, Ruben, who's basically the anchor point for Agentics Foundation, he's breaking into the latest of whatever is released. So there are live coding sessions and also the hackerspace sessions. I'll pause here and pass it on to my colleagues if you would like to add any discount. No? I guess we'd love to announce that we opened the hackathon. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much for this event.
Right, yeah, thank you.
And
Yeah.
enjoy.
I will just put the link in the chat.
No, I'm a guest as well. Shall I stop the Teams?